Here we go. We're live. Welcome, Giants. My name is Joe Perrone, and this is the Freedom Hour on the Wake Up with Giants Network. I am an entrepreneur and a strategist, and I help business owners and professionals design the life of their dreams. This show is designed to help you overcome the biggest roadblocks to your dream life. It will require you to examine life deeper, find those gifts you were given at birth. You'll discover your strength, clarity, and purpose. You will discover freedom. A reminder to subscribe on YouTube to the Wake Up with Giants Network and the Tribe of Giants. Great community, and you'll find a lot of value in that group and on these channels. We have some great hosts that have shows on here that will definitely help you find freedom. Today on the show, I have Adrian Meyer. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a real exciting opportunity. Thank you.
And I've gotten to know Adrian pretty well through the Tribe of Giants and love to tell you a little bit more about him. He's a healer, teacher, and a quantum mechanic coach, which we'll get into more of that in his interview. He's a curious adventurer of the thing that makes us all the same, consciousness. He set out on a journey to find the truth about us humans when the answers supplied to the questions about life didn't make sense anymore. These answers weren't working unless one is willing to give up all of their power and follow the collective matrix mind. He discovered how to function very successfully in this matrix-minded world of greed, fear, and indoctrination as an empath. He's a healer teacher and has developed programs, protocols, and methods to assist people to achieve the renewal and transformation that leads to a life that works for many who cannot say that. His mission is to create a world that works for everyone according to what they see as success and living as an expression of higher consciousness where love, joy, and peace become their experience regardless of what is going on around them, and still achieve success even if they know where they are in the world, but they're not of the world. Adrian, I'm so excited to hear more and to have you share more of this, and I always start off with my first question of what is freedom to you?
Yeah, freedom. Freedom is an interesting concept. It's always freedom within a context for me, and to understand for me, freedom is to where am I, where do I fit in, and who am I, and to be that person fully. And freedom means for me to be able to decide. Make a decision what you want to do, when you want to do this, and for how long you want to do this, and in the process to make life a better place. That's the main thing, so that we're always contributing to life, and we're contributing either life enhancing experiences or life diminishing experiences, and that's all about the consciousness thing. So the idea is always to bring light and life to life. That is because as we extend that love and that joy and peace, we don't project it, we extend it. So as we extend it, we get more. So it's like a dam with a big inflow and an outflow, and the more we flow out, the more flows in, and that's the magic of understanding consciousness.
And Adrian, as I follow you and I learn more from you and what you're creating with this My Life 2.0, it's so fascinating to see the results that you help other people get. You've told me about some local in-person people that you've helped. You told me about some virtual people that you've helped. Tell me about what is My Life 2.0 and what's that transformation look like? What are you seeing?
Okay, so basically, if I can just do graphics with my hands, if you take a level of life, this level of life, if we live in fear, then we attack life from the bottom. Then we try and make life work. When we do a quantum switch and we go into higher consciousness, we live from there. Then we are creators of that life experience, rather than trying to fight what is. We create what we need and what can be. And understanding the whole consciousness thing is to go back and say, how do I want to create my life, and who must I be, and what must my being be in order to create that? And coming from love and peace and joy, to understand that, and courage and acceptance and willingness. Those are all states of consciousness. If we understand how we actually plug into these states, and then life flows through us, and life expresses itself all the time through us. So we get to decide where we want to plug into the consciousness, and from there on, life then flows through us and expresses itself through us, because life is already expressing itself. You see all over the world some of the worst things that are happening, and some of the best things are happening. It's just life expressing itself, and we get to decide, through our understanding of consciousness and how things like willingness works, that we can then change that consciousness and begin to operate from a higher level, not down, but be aware of more that life is about. Whereas if we operate from fear and shame and greed, then we look up at life, and we look at it. We look up the mountain and see that, there's only so much we can see. But when you look down, there's the whole valley, basically, if you look at it like that.
And you've been successful helping others get that top-down view of life. And I'm wondering, as as people come into your world and they are looking up, and you go on the news and social media, and there's just so much out there, and it's rife with a lot of struggle and a lot of conflict, and that's life manifesting itself through these different channels. But what are the first things that you go through with people to get them to see that you and I are seeing it from that top-down view? We're not looking at it as this big thing that's weighing down on us. We look at it as opportunities to create and to be creative with what we have in front of us, and to really share, inspire, and uplift others from our point of view. So tell me more about how you make that shift.
Okay, so if you look at the basic thing I do in the workshops and with people is we go through, life is like this. Life goes up and down. So we just take one cycle and go, from where we are, we status quo, life is working kind of thing, and then something happens which disturbs the status quo, and then you start falling. And then you can land at the bottom. Here at the bottom is the place, it's like the shadow of the valley of the shadow of death kind of thing, where it's also the place where Alcatraz is, the narcissist kind of existence, which is fear and greed and shame and grief, and all those things are there. When we fall down and we land in this soup of misery. And then basically to help people to understand where they are in this process, and then at the bottom where they get there, on the bottom of the curve, they have three options: go up, go sideways, or go out. And unfortunately, a lot of people do go sideways, which is they make their life just smaller and smaller and smaller, and then what happens is they think it's safer, but it's more and more dangerous, because the smaller your life is, the more it is attacked. So the idea is then to help them to see and expand their consciousness, so that they can see, okay, fine, this is where I am. And then the next step after is basically a 4-step process of wake up, get up, stay up, and prosper. That's the way up on the other side, where they can then, begin to imagineer a future from that works for them according to the vision that they have for their life. At the bottom here, it's very difficult to create a vision, because you only want to get out of this mess that you're in and out of this soup of misery. So you want to help them, lift them up into the wake up stage, and that's all through insight and understanding and energy work. Really, I do a lot of energy work with people in that process, so that they can begin to understand and see, this is where I am. I understand and accept that, but I want to go there. And then we help them to create that process, go through the wake up. There is something different. There is a way up, that we can do. The get up is to equip themselves, learn and understand and practice and get their ideas together, so that they can then go to the third stage, where the resilience, stay up is the resilience, and keep on going until they get to the prosper stage. Most people, when you take that cycle, most people actually want to go backward. They want to recreate what was. but that just sucks all your energy. You know, it really is. It's very difficult to work like that and to be like that. It drains all your energy, and then you just fall back down to the bottom. Whereas if you go on the other side, you go upwards, you can be driven and pulled up by an amazing vision that you can create for yourself. And then that process really, I just call it Imagineering. As you imagine what you want, who do you want to be, what do you want? And, you know, there are so many works out there from ancient to modern that tells you about manifestation and all these things. But what we do is we go in and look at how the process really works. What do I do and what do I not do? What is my role and what is the universe's role? And how do I keep this? The moment you have a vision, is you create a vortex, like an energy vortex, which is a vacuum. And so you need to stay in that vortex so that you can go up faster. But it's very difficult because people sometimes, you know, fall out of the vortex, which is natural. We all do that kind of thing. So the closer we can stay into this thing, the faster we will go up, and the faster life will show. The paradox is, you know, the more patient you are, the faster it happens. And that is a weird thing to understand. Sure. Yeah, it's the Course in Miracles talks about, you know, the infinitely patient. For them, things manifest very fast. So it's like a paradox, and paradoxes is one of those things that we live by them, because there are things that shouldn't be, but they are, and maybe there are two things, more than one thing, that are true at the same time. Yeah.
And, you know, we talk about, you know, the vortex and the words that we use, and I understand them to be true. And I've learned that, you know, we are creating, we're constantly in creation. And, you know, I remember back at a time in 2014 where I was stuck. I was burnt out. I was very successful and had the house, the car, and the life looked good on Facebook and Instagram. It was pretty, it looked good, but inside, I knew that there was something missing, and it was more. I was stuck in that disease of more. Yeah. And I needed a wake-up call, and I needed something to happen to shift that way of thinking. And for me, it was landed in the emergency room with panic and anxiety attacks. And, you know, but at that point, I didn't know what I needed. I had to have a physical response to shift. Yeah. Yeah. And I know, as you know, we both have shared together, we're both so passionate about switching from everything happens to me to I can go out and I can create what I want. And I don't have to be a victim of circumstance, or, hey, whatever happens, or, hey, you know, it is what it is. But I can actually go out and create that new reality for myself. And then I'll begin to attract in
exactly
these things that I want, these outcomes that I desire. So for the people that are listening in the audience, and they might understand the concepts that you're talking about, they might get it. They might have read it in a book, but it's just still new to it. We don't want them going to the hospital. We don't want them to lose their marriage or lose their health or lose anything. We want them to take action today. So what are some of the things that they can do today to begin creating that 2.0 life? Uh-oh. You know, these technical glitches always happen at the time where Adrian's about to drop the gold. Adrian, are you out there with us? Well, I guess I'll go forward here. Adrian was telling me a story recently about someone in his neighborhood that he was helping, and they were having issues with a business that they were creating, and they were really stuck and going about it in the wrong way, and had a view of business and had a view of themselves that I know Adrian would love to share as soon as he comes back on. Hopefully he'll jump back on here in a minute. He's got some great stuff. And I encourage you, he has a Facebook group that he's going to talk about in a little bit, but I'm going to post his link to that group. And I highly recommend that if you can get on there, you go on to the Facebook group that he has. And he just has a passion for people. He has a passion to help people. He's over there in South Africa, and just a great guy, great human, great guy to network with. And I've learned so much from him, and that's why I invite him on the Freedom Hour, because we both have a passion for helping people get out of that stuck version of themselves where, life just seems like it's happening to them and not through them. And I just honor him so much for the work that he's doing and, the people that he's serving. And he's definitely a valued member of the tribe of giants. And when I first met him, he had instantly created value for me with some words that he shared with me. And yeah, he's coming back on here right now. So here we go. But yeah, no worries. Hey, you were just about to say something profound. I know, and these little technical glitches happen when the gold's about to be transferred.
Yeah.
So we were talking about those action steps that people could take right away to, we both love that word unstuck. And, intuitively people know that there's something they have to do. But we're in this world of everything has to happen now and fast. And we know things need to be changed, but we don't want to wait for that physical ailment or that, for me, it was anxiety attack, dropping on the floor. I thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was going to happen, but it stopped me dead in my tracks. But we don't want that for people. This is why we're here. We want to be that, that one or two signs before that you get there to say, hey, this is oncoming. And you'd shared with me that letter that's on the desk that in the C-suite, right?
Yeah.
So that letter is coming.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when. That the panic attack, that anxiety attack, that physical response is coming.
Yeah.
And we want to be a part of that warning system that's there before, so you don't have to go through what we went through. That's our gift to the world.
Absolutely.
So, Adrian, what can we do right now? If you understand the concepts and there's something that you need to do, what are some action steps you could take right now?
Well, I think for most people to understand is that the situation that we are in the world is this massive flux that we are in, and so many things have changed, and a lot of people just want to hold on to what they've got, but that string of that they're holding on to is getting thinner and thinner, and it's just it's going to pop, and it has popped for so many people. And then I just can equate it just to getting to the end of a railway line. It's like a dead stop. And to understand and see that thing coming, and then to rather jump over to another track that goes further than get stuck on at the end of the line. But most people don't do that. They wait until the whole thing falls apart, and then they go down into the fear and grief and loss of everything in every situation that they are in closes them down. So the good thing and the fantastic thing would be to actually jump to the next track before you hit the end of the line. But we human beings, we don't do that. We keep on pushing until that something happens. And I call it a life quake. Until when the life quake happens, it's like a death of a spouse, a divorce, a breakup of a relationship, a business goes under, COVID happens. All these things, those are life quakes, and that really takes you out of off the track that you're on. Or stops you in the track that you can't go anywhere further. And then most people don't know, there's a track right next door, and there's a different track that they can go on. Before they get to this point that I don't know any further, can you show me? And how do I do it? The yes, but how thing. We get so many times that people say, no, there's a different way of doing this. It says yes, but how? And then it's like, you must believe, you must change your thoughts, you must do this, you must do that. And then people say, okay, yes, but how? And that is the basic, the small shifts that people can make that can have a profound effect on them. The changing, people think the thoughts own them, or they are their thoughts, and to understand, your thoughts is really from that state of consciousness. All the thoughts that you are thinking, sometimes it's not even yours. That's why you can get a thing that I call a spam thought. You're busy with something, and then poof, this thought comes in. You go, where's this come from? That's a spam thought. It's from a state of consciousness that you are in, maybe very, very subconsciously, but then that thought pops in. It's like, where's this come from? And then if we respond to that kind of thing, then we go into that state of consciousness, and then the process unrolls and unravels. Whereas when we understand that, and we can see and stand back and say, okay, I'm the observer of my thoughts, and then we teach people to how to do that. Stand back. There's the Hasidic Jews have got brilliant ideas and practices. You can actually take 3 steps back and 3 steps forward, 1 step to the side, and all those kind of things, which are actually ways of reorienting yourself towards consciousness. And when I do workshops, then I usually, we use laying up on our hands. That's the old way of saying it, to help people to shift that energy very, very quickly. And if I can use an example, we had a woman in one of the workshops. She and her husband are both scientists. He's a mathematician and she's a biologist. And her badge that she was carrying around with her, that she hadn't cried for 15 years. She was like a very strong woman. But you could also see in her eyes, there was this not feeling. She couldn't feel. And we went through the workshop. It's a 3-day workshop. By the second day, she and her husband were crying like you can't believe. And she caught up for 15 years of not crying. And that was just shifting the energy so that she could open up and become more open to the feeling and to understand, let the emotion flow through you. And for her to understand, I saw her a couple of times afterwards, and she totally changed. She lost about 10 kgs of weight in like 3 months. Just from that, because not holding in all the energy and not holding in all the emotions, when she let it out, the weight also changed. And her husband was very happy, of course. The relationship recovered quite dramatically because they were in the workshop, because the relationship was not really working so well. And he was very much into science, and I explained to him by using quantum physics, and I said, I used the elegant word, elegance of mathematics, and he was like, oh, tell me about that. And we used that to explain to them, and it was quite amazing to see the results. So to shift that consciousness, I do now. I can do it by Zoom. I take people on these. It's like an hour session that we go into consciousness. It's like a meditation thing. I call it the Light Express. We take them on this journey, and that's like into consciousness and understanding that, bringing them to the point of peace, because that point of peace is the place where everything changes and everything becomes possible. So it's an amazing experience for so many people that, and I have a few people that I, regularly do. And when the one, especially when her big toe starts aching, then she calls me. It's like, okay, we've got to go and find out, because the big toe is like speaking. There's something consciousness wants to say to her. And every time when we go, we find something. It's like, it's amazing. And it's not intrusive. It's not traumatic. In fact, it can be, a positive bit of trauma. It's like all this joy and all that happens. And it's totally amazing to watch this kind of thing happening. So you're shifting the energy, and I'm very grateful for the gift that I was given to be able to do that with people. Yeah.
And what would you say, Adrian, to the people out there that might not think that this is for them? They might, this is for somebody that they're the people that think it's for somebody else. But if they're hearing this message and listening to us right now, it is for them. This can work for them.
Yeah.
You've told me this in depth. This works for everyone. This is something for everyone, because it's your mission to show people this.
Exactly.
What would you say
Exactly.
to the people that would say, I don't know if that would work for me, or just the skeptics? What would you tell them?
Mm.
What are you
What I
telling
see,
them now?
yeah, what I see so many times where people say, if you say to them, if anything in your life if you want anything in your life to change, you are the person who has to change. And they kick very, very harshly against that because they've been building this ego and this image and everything through hard work and whatever, their way of doing life. And they can't think that they must actually become someone different in order to do that. I get it quite often where people say, I'm not going to change. Life will transform itself, to suit my identity. And I said, yeah, it's cool. How is it working for you now? Are you happy? Does it make sense? And then just asking the strategic questions, what in your life is not working? Let's do a little mind map. We'll call it mind map, call it the relationship map. Let's look at all your relationships that work. Because I discovered this thing, and it's actually the law of three. Life is health, wealth, and relationships. If you take it like this, you like a triangle. In the middle is you. And when you are in the middle, the state of consciousness that you are in, if you turn it like horizontally, if you are in higher consciousness, then life expresses itself differently. And we are in lower consciousness, then life is a battle. So then we can see, how is your finance, how is your health, your wealth, and your relationship, and how does it balance out? So if we help you to get to a higher consciousness, then life flows differently through you. So and then it's not difficult to see, where is it not working, and just usually it's about relationships, because the relationships will affect everything else. And it's not just the personal relationship. It is anything where there is interaction with other people, like at work, normal, like run of the mall where you go shopping. That's a little relationship that you work on there. It's an exchange of energy. And what is that exchange of energy? Because, if we do it from joy, and you walk into a shop and you're joyful and you're kind and so on, then the interaction is different. Because even if the person behind the counter is not very happy, your interaction of being more joyful and more peaceful coming in there, the result might not be what you want, but it's not your job to cause the result. It's just my job is just to be nice, be love, and be joy to the people. And the result in most of the time is actually a very pleasant response. And, that makes life so much better. Now, if we understand that, even in a personal relationship where we, if we understand and we can see that, we can understand that what is this energy dynamic between me and her, or him and him, or her and her, or whatever, if we understand that dynamic and can be able to stand back and see, okay, this is what's happening, then we can respond better, and then, we create each other. If we start getting nasty and unhappy and so on, then we just create this fight, and this is just so it's unnecessary. And on the one hand, well, it's not on the one hand, it's totally unnecessary, but then you begin to destroy each other, and you create this destruction between people. And I mean, I know how that works. I've been there, and so it makes your life a misery where if you knew and if you understood what was happening, and you had an agreement, you had a protocol. If things go sideways, then this is what we do. We do A, B, C, and D. We've got a little, like a flight manual. So I do that with the coaching clients. So I give them a panic sheet. If they panic, take out your panic sheet and look at there all the points that this is where you are good at. This is how you handle stress, and this is how a couple of points, and they can look at it and say, okay, fine, and that lifts them back into a different state of consciousness very quickly, because now when you are angry and you're fearful and you're in grief and so on, then your senses shut down, and you can't think. If you ask an angry person, so what are you good at? You're going to get sworn at. So the thing is that when they know they have this emergency manual here somewhere, they can go and say, okay, fine, I'm experiencing this now, so let's go and find my panic sheet. And, just look at the thing and just reprogram, stand still, pull back, just go. And, there's neurology that we can use, like the breathing. Huberman talks about that. He's got this amazing thing where he tells people what you do is you do a double breathing. It's like, and then the second breath is just filling up your lungs and you blow out through your mouth. And when you do that 4 or 5 times, then your nervous system resets and you go down very quickly. So all those kind of tricks that we can use, to pull yourself back up into a higher state and not get sucked in, because the problem with the lower states of consciousness, it sucks you down. It can suck you in, and then you've got trouble. So
yeah. And Adrian, so many action tips that you gave us right there, and I know that you're an action-based guy, and you preach action. You preach, these small things that we can do, and these small changes, breathing and just focusing on these areas of health, wealth, and relationships. And I wanted to pull the thread on relationships for a minute, because you said that relationships are kind of that's where it all comes back to, is relationships. And in the document that I offer people, the 5 keys to time freedom, one of the 5 keys was daily actions. And one of the daily actions is to give, but give outside of the box. And one of the top gifts that you could give another human being is forgiveness. And we talk about forgiveness as not forgiving as condoning the act of whatever happened, but it's releasing that energy. And so often that energy has got us held back from what's possible, that My Life 2.0, the Unstuck program, the time freedom, the overall freedom, right?
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts on those relationships, how they play a role, and what role forgiveness plays in that, because I've experienced it, and you've experienced it yourself, and we've talked about this, that's where a lot of that energy is in unforgiveness and holding that energy. Could you expand more on that for us?
Oh, yes. I struggle with this the whole concept of forgiveness. I think, I must forgive someone and then they can just go on and do what they do, kind of thing. But then I came across a very important verse in the Bible that's forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. And I was sitting with this thing and saying, but they know what they're doing. And then I had an encounter with someone, and I realized that they don't know what they're doing. If they're into that anger and the whole narcissistic thing, is they actually lose themselves. And then understanding what is happening there is this person is expressing consciousness. That's what's happening. It's not them. It's like expressing that consciousness that's coming out. And when we understand that from our hearts, from our heart space, and say, this person is expressing consciousness, then the forgiveness on the one side is very easy, or easier rather, and on the other hand, there's also compassion, and say, I get you, I understand, you are expressing total anger now, or humiliation, or the whole pride thing, or the scorn, and what, but understanding that this person is expressing consciousness now, that's what's happening. Then it's easier to understand why they're doing this and what is happening. So then standing back and saying, okay, express, go ahead. And sometimes, it's usually, it's easier to allow that person just to continue expressing, because what will happen is they'll run out of energy. I have one of my clients, she says when she does a session with someone, then what she does is when this person is expressing like all these fear and grief and whatever, she just leaves them, because they run out of energy, because the lower state of consciousness is projection. So you use your own energy to project that into the space. So you're going to run out of energy. When the higher states, of course, you don't project, you extend. It comes through you. So the lower states always uses your own energy. That's why I've seen people fight, and then suddenly the fight just stops, and they run out of energy. It's like, I don't know, just the one will leave. Run out of energy, can't fight anymore. And that's the kind of thing where unless the conflict is fed from a different source, like different people, if you triangulate and all that kind of thing, then the energy just escalates, and then all hell breaks loose. But when you understand, okay, I see this, I understand this, then compassion is possible. And when compassion is possible, forgiveness is simple.
And who are we being when we're holding on to that energy, and we're, when somebody's yelling at us, or somebody's getting into a confrontation with us?
Yeah.
If we're being compassionate, if we're being empathetic, who are we being? We're truly being a holder of space for that energy.
And when we are in a higher state, then the energy that comes from the anger is actually dissolved. From if we come from a space of love, of peace, and someone is throwing anger at you, it actually dissolves that anger, because it doesn't reflect it. It dissolves it and incorporates it and brings it back to love. Bring that energy back to love. And to see that kind of thing happen is when you really in a huge fight with someone, and you stop it and say, I love you. See what happens. The fight stops like that, because then, but of course you have to mean it. When you do that kind of thing, then suddenly the fight is gone. It's like a fly flying into a dam wall. Poof. It just goes. Because when you are in peace and when you are in joy, then you can not absorb that, but transmute that energy. And when you can do that, it's an amazing effect on yourself, because you stay in peace. As long as you don't get sucked into the anger, if you stay in peace, then the energy runs out faster, because you're not reflecting it back, and it does it because you begin a loop. I fight, you fight, I fight, you fight, and then it just goes round and round and round. But if it comes at you and you dissolve it, in your love and in your joy and peace, then there's the energy runs out on the other side very quickly.
And I'm going to give you a yes, but how? So we, the current state of affairs in our world, and there's so many outlets to go and find something to be pissed off at, or somewhere to be aggrieved, and there's so many opportunities to absorb that negative energy. What are things that we can do right now as we, we're recording this? It's April 20th, 2022, and we still have wars going on. We still have climate crises. We still have all these different things that we can really get mad about and take a lot of anger out. And we can take that.
Absolutely.
We could take that out into our world if we wanted to. And it would be very easy to commiserate with other people and say all the injustice, all the things that are going on. How do we take that and transmute it into that energy that we're going to go out and create peace, love, joy, freedom, showing options, showing love to people, forgiving? How are we going to do that?
Yeah. See, it's a case of changing your default state. People, there's a default state, as you go higher, you are more into love and peace and joy and that kind of thing. And you project or extend that more. When you're in the lower states, you can stay there. People can be there. And the thing is that when you become aware of this and you decide, you declare that you want to be, that you are in a higher state, then you can see your lower states coming. And the main thing is that immediately as you were talking is, I thought of the thing is, if you don't want to fall, don't walk where it's slippery. Don't watch TV. Don't get involved in these kind of discussions. Don't get sucked into political discussions. When you see people, trying to bait you into a discussion, decline. And even if they then try and get you to respond like they want you to respond, and you don't, then again, you're like, they might have something nasty to say to you, or there might be a couple of doors slapping or slamming, but it's fine. You keep your integrity, you stay, you don't go where it's slippery. And we can be very, it's really just arrogance and pride where we say, I can go there, I can walk there, you will not affect me. And very quickly, poof, there you go. You get sucked under and you embroil, and there you go. And then now you have a double dilemma, because now you have to start forgiving again. So you have to ask for, I'm so sorry, blah. And when we can understand it and see that operate our lives from this higher state, then we can see, yes, we're going to fall, we're going to judge. As long as you have a brain, you're going to judge, but you don't have to say it. When you judge, and prejudice is prejudge. Neurology, neuroscience tells us that before you actually become aware of the thought of judgment, your brain is already lighting up. You're already active. So your brain is already doing the judgment for you before it comes out of your mouth or into your thought. So becoming aware of it, okay, fine, I am being South African, there's a lot of prejudice and stuff here, was and still is. And you become aware of this, okay, you see, and you understand, okay, I'm judging, but shut up, don't say anything, and then forgive yourself, because you'll be programmed to who you can like and who you must fear and whoever, the whole thing. And although that programming, you can dissolve the programming. It takes a long time to do that, because it's generations already. That kind of thing, it's been going on. And it's not just, it's worldwide. Everybody, we do that. It's not, like, as I said, as long as you have a brain, you're going to judge. So you're
not a bad person if you judge. You just got to keep your mouth shut and observe the judgment. I've learned that as well. Observe that judgment, and who are we being inside of that judgment.
Exactly.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because we're all going to judge. We're going to see somebody with a different color hair than we have, or a funky colored car, or they painted their house bright pink, and we might have a tendency to judge that person. But who are we being inside of that judgment?
Yeah, you see, I think we are programmed, really, as human beings. We are programmed to live between the states of pride and humiliation, because that's the matrix mind that I talk about. In most of my stuff, that is the matrix mind is controlled by fear indoctrination, and fear indoctrination is the biggest thing, and greed. So when we indoctrinated into that, then, and there's many institutions that do this kind of thing. Our education does not tell us how to think; they tell us what to think. So that is what happens. So then, you must think this, you must think that, you must think that. So that's where it comes from. But now we lift ourselves out of that, and we understand, okay, this is the system. This is how the system works. But now, if we then can step out of this matrix mind and begin to live from the point of courage upwards, then life changes in a sense that we can see that the judgments that coming into your mind can be stopped. There's a fascinating thing that I found out is the 12 disciplines of the mind, and the first discipline of a free mind is the first one is called the Sentinel, and the Sentinel is a thing, how can I say, it is an entity, not entity, but it's a state of consciousness where you only allow in what is congruent with your identity, basically. So that Sentinel stands there, and when you have it activated, then it scans. It's like a radar, and it scans those things, and it can stop it from coming into your mind, into your thinking mind. So it still comes in, but your Sentinel can take it out. And the amazing thing is when we have these 12 disciplines of the mind activated and made the disciples of us, so we teach them, and they become part of our being, then amazing thing starts happening is they they almost go out into consciousness and shows the world, okay, don't send that thought to this guy. It's not going to work, kind of thing. So that's amazing when we get to that level. And of course, again, if we walk where it's slippery, you're going to fall, you know. So then the Sentinel probably goes like, yeah, here we go again, you know. 'Cause
the cone was up. It says wet floor, slippery. You still walked in the middle of it. Now you knocked over the mop bucket too.
yeah. And your 12 disciplines go like, oh no, can you believe it? You know?
It reminds me of that children's movie Inside Out, which I watched with Bruno Marcello, and the anger, and he's like,
yeah.
Those 12 disciplines are just like, oh no, not again.
Yeah.
But avoiding those slippery spots are not that we're ignoring the slippery spots, but we're observing that they're there. And what can we do about those slippery spots? Because they're still there. They're not going to go anywhere. We're still going to have the conversation at the dinner, or we're still going to have the relative that brings up politics, or we're still going to have the news on, or something's going to come on, or you're going to open up your Instagram or your Facebook. You're going to see it. So what are some little tips that we can do to avoid those slippery spots?
Yeah, well, it starts really off with the thing of it's okay to be angry. It's okay to get angry. Everybody gets angry, but in your anger, do not sin. That's the main thing. What does that mean? That do not sin means do not forget who you are. When you go and you have a very strong consciousness, identity developed from higher consciousness, then you can go into a situation and face this political uncle or whatever of yours, and listen to them and allow them to express without being affected. Of course, they're not going to enjoy it all the time, because sometimes they want an effect. They want a response. But I think it's called gray rocking, where they go off and nothing happens. You're going to sound like very boring to them. But it's okay. You're not going to, go into that discussion, or in that, you're not going to go there. And for me, what I do is I just say, I'm not going there.
Yeah,
and that's it.
I'm not going there.
I'm not going there.
This isn't Adrian. I'm not going there.
I'm not going there.
I don't do this.
Yeah, and I get so I get often. So, what do you think about this or about that or that? I said, no, I don't think about that, because it doesn't serve me to think about that. Because if I think about that and it affects me to think about that, then I'd rather not think about it. It's not that I don't take responsibility for what happens around me, but I don't have an opinion about the person or about persons or a group or a thing that happened. I have no opinion. And of course, that's very boring for people. So what do you think of it? I don't think of it. I have no opinion. My opinion is, I have no opinion. Everybody is who they are, and I can't change that. They can change that. So I am not going to tell them to change.
Yeah.
And that's where you stand back.
Well, I like that, and I want to open that up a little bit more to just something that I've thought about and share with clients, and I share. It's like walking into a Starbucks and asking them for a doorknob. Well, they don't do that. You wouldn't walk in a home improvement store and say, "Hey, can I have a double espresso?" They don't do that. So if Adrian doesn't do that, and I don't go there, and Joe Perrone doesn't go there, that's just not who we be and who we are. And listener, if you take Adrian's wisdom there and say, no, from today on, from after the time I listened to this episode on, I don't do that. Yeah. Those things that go back to what you said. How is it working? How is it working when you engage with somebody that's draining your energy? How's that working? Go back to that, and that's a good marker for something that you should say, I don't do this anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, the moment you can feel energy. Yeah, and you learn to get to know people. You can see the eyes and the way And the typical way that someone comes, have you heard this? You heard that? I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. And then, but you must. What happened? Don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, but really, I don't want to hear. And then you excuse yourself and walk away, because that's the best way for me to do it. Because there's always somebody who's ready to have a good. We call it a skinner, a gossip. But if you extract yourself from that and say, I don't go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best.
And Nick Smith in the comment, yes, let people know how to work with you. That's so correct. Teach people where to go with you and where you won't go. And you're right. After that, first, maybe that uncomfortable first, hey, I don't do that.
Mm.
Well, guess what? You're not going to have those conversations anymore. And maybe that person will just go away from your life because you were only there to talk about those certain conversations with, and that just might be an hour of your day or your week you might get back from having those unproductive conversations. Yeah. And I love the comment, Nick and Adrian.
Thanks, Nick.
The feedback has been invaluable. This is not who we are, and that's freedom, right?
Yeah, because that's also one of the 12 disciplines of the mind, and that discipline is called the fair judge. And the fair judge only sees love. They judge everything by love. Is this love or not? If it's not love, joy, or peace, then I don't go there. I don't engage. And that in a sense, you asked the first question you asked is, what is freedom? That's freedom. I don't go there because I know you want to suck me into your gossip situation, but I don't go there. Sorry. And then at the end of the day, the Sentinel will tell them, hey, go away. And it might sound very blunt. And I found that, the more you wake up, the more you become almost blunt towards certain kind of people. And they will pick it up as being blunt. I don't do that. And it's not being rude, but that's, here's the gate. Closed. Sorry. Don't go there.
And I love that you said that, because I found that to be true for myself. But the more blunt is the less of the boundary you had with that person. So you've allowed that to come in for so long, and to the extent that you've allowed that to come in, when you finally just say, I don't do that, that might be a shock to some people, because I just did that. We just talked about that on last Wednesday. How come this Wednesday we're not talking about? So it will come as a shock. And if we, I know that if it's happened to me, and as I have examined myself to say, well, where have you allowed that to come in, and for how long have you allowed that to come in, and to what depth have you allowed that to come in? Is how blunt or sharp that pushback might be, and it just might be like a reestablishment of a boundary that could have never even existed.
When what I understand and see more and more for myself as well is sometimes when I don't want to call it the enemy, but when the lower consciousness sees a boundary, they know behind that boundary is a trigger. And they will jump over your boundary and start dancing on your trigger, But if you now get to the place where that trigger dissolves and there's no more boundary, and people say, okay, but I came to you and I was trying to trigger you into some response, and now you're not responding. It's like, what's wrong with you? So because you've changed. And that is where you can maybe begin a conversation and tell them, sometimes when you wake up and you see what has happened and what you've done and what I have done, then, and I understand, for me, that's no longer acceptable. For me, you can do what you want. I can't tell you that. But for me, it's no longer, because I need to preserve my identity as a free human being living from peace, joy, and love. So then, so how do you do that? There you go. And maybe they laugh at you. You get a scoff or two, where people say, wait, we'll see what happens to you when we push you hard enough. But you do get to the place where they can push you. Nothing happens. And it's like, so how did you do that? And you'll see. when that person is in trouble, when they really feel humiliated and in grief and so on, they'll come and say, so, how did you do that, dude? Can you show me how does this? And there you go. Then you become a disciple. There you go.
And I've experienced this as well. And they run out of energy. It's almost like, you know what, I'm done. I'm done trying with you. I'm done trying to trigger you. I'm done trying to pressure you into a response and go back to that old way. And yeah, it's so awesome. Well, you know, Adrian, we're talking My Life 2.0. You have a very valuable program that you help other people with. Where can they find you? How can they get in touch with you? You're one of the most responsive people that I network with, and I just love messaging you and learning from you. And it's just been a great Freedom Hour. So how can people get in touch with you?
They can get me on Facebook. I'm there. It's Adrian with 1 A and 2 N's. So that's the only person on Facebook with that. And then my group that I've restarted up now, My Life 2.0. It is on Facebook. It's a very small group, but we don't want to grow it too big. You know, we want to keep it intimate. And of course, if it gets big, then it gets big. But it's My Life 2.0, and they can get me on Facebook Messenger. I'm quite available.
You are quite available, and I just posted that Facebook group in the chat. So I definitely encourage people to get on there, get with Adrian, learn about My Life 2.0. Adrian, what a phenomenal hour that we shared together, and I honor you and thank you for all that who you be in the tribe of giants, and just how much love you've shown me, and I love you. So I hope that we'll have another conversation, and we'll have more, because I feel like we just hit a good stride here at the end of this hour.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I really, it's most appreciated, and love to you too. And thank you for being with me. You know, on this thing. It's really very inspiring, and you know, let peace reign. Eh?
Let peace reign. Those are good last words. So remember, subscribe to the Wake Up with Giants TV network, Tribe of Giants. We got a great community. Nick and Ryan have created this amazing space for all of us to share, collaborate, and get to know each other and learn. And I just so grateful for it. So, all right, Adrian, we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you in the tribe.
Thank you, Joe. Many blessings. Thanks. Bye.
Many blessings.
Bye.